call the Employee Benefit Trust meeting to order. It's 5:19. Item number two, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Chris. Do I have a second? I'll second. Second by Sarah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
There was a typographical error.
Okay.
For the good of the order, more than midway down, it refers to Chris as Mrs. Chris Frank.
Okay.
Thank you for the save.
Probably not really right.
Oh,
I've been getting that a lot at the elementary schools as well.
I put Mrs.
There's not many of us there, so.
Okay, so, do we want to approve the minutes and have Monica make those corrections?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, with those corrections, okay. Is there a motion to approve and ensure that Monica makes those corrections?
I move that we approve with the corrections.
Okay. Sarah, is there a second?
Hi, as Mr. Franny. Second.
Second by Mr. Franny. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, presentations. At this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Allison, who is here.
Hello, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us today. Feels like it's been a long time since we've had a meeting. I have attended, and I sent Rob in my stead on May 15th. It happens to be the day that my meeting was born. For the record. Our agenda today is relatively light. I want to talk through sort of the recap from last year, what we put into place for 25-26. We'll do a brief claims overview as well, and then also discuss some of the updates that happened during open enrollment. We have presentations in front of you, also on the screen. This first page here goes over our renewal recap to show what was put in place for the 25-26 plan year. As it relates firstly to our medical plan, we changed our third-party administrator from Aetna to Personify. We switched medical networks from Aetna to Blue Cross. And we switched our pharmacy benefit manager from CVS to Pharos RX. And then as far as stop loss goes, we did not change carriers, but I just wanted to put kind of a quick reminder of sort of the final outcome. As you know, when we're looking at the stop loss rating, the renewal takes a bit more time than all of the rest of the components of our medical plan. And so ultimately what we landed with our stop loss is still through the company matrix / nationwide. The overall premium actually decreased by about 12%. And our aggregating specific deductible this year is also reduced compared to last year. This year it's $480,000, and last year it was $615,000. If you remember that aggregating specific deductible is the amount that the district is on the hook for any group of individuals who meet the $150,000 threshold. That balance over the $150,000 for each individual accumulates till we hit $480,000 of district liability. And then the reinsurance kicks in at $150,000 for every other member of the plan. So good news that that's decreased by about $150,000. Hopefully we don't have to worry too much about that this year, but that is because we have a couple of high-cost claimants that are expected to continue to incur high costs this year again. Our anticipated increase in claims costs this year is 13%. So while our premium for stop loss went down, the actuaries do expect that we will see an additional $1.17 to $1.5 million in claims this year. So great news there. And then we also see that our fully insured equivalent rates, which are essentially the rating that the employees see and the rates that are created in order to make appropriate payroll deductions, also were adjusted to about 15% compared to 24-25 plan year. And that is obviously to help offset any additional claims this year, as well as hopefully build some the reserves for the plan. Questions on any of those changes for this year?
A question on the stop loss on the aggregating specific deductible. What is the financial impact on the district of that number of aggregating the?
Yeah, so when, essentially that full $480,000 could be the district's liability. So when we have across the whole plan for all individuals, we have an individual stop loss deductible of $150,000. But because we're expected to have one or more employees hit that right away or early in the plan year, instead of increasing our premium overall across the whole population, they instead offer this $480,000 specific deductible, where if we have any folks who hit that deductible of $150,000, we are responsible still for an additional $480,000 in claims costs until the reinsurance will start to pay for those large cost claims. So we could technically, as a district, be on the hook for that $480,000 in total before the reinsurance starts to pay, assuming that those high cost claimants continue to incur claims above the individual stop loss threshold.
Okay, and I'm not sure what the reinsurance is.
The reinsurance is essentially once we satisfy that aggregating specific deductible, that means the reinsurance will come into play, which means that the insurer will then pay for 100% of the claims after we've satisfied that 480. So it's insurance for our insurance to make sure that we are not exceeding a certain threshold. So the reinsurance is to certainly help with any of those shock claims or those really high cost claims. But in lieu of increasing our premium substantially, we're saying we'll rather roll the dice, so to speak, and hope that we don't have to pay this $480,000 claims, instead of increasing our premium and dropping that $480,000 claims liability. We said we'll risk the claims because that may not happen, as opposed to increasing our premium to cover any claims that we may not, those claims may not happen, but we're definitely paying that premium. It's a kind of a risk transfer where we may not be on the hook for that full $480,000. But ultimately, worst case, the district would be responsible for that.
And 150 is just a marker when the other kicks in. It's not 150 plus the 4.
Correct. That's correct. Yep. And so in better years, when we don't have so many high cost claimants who are expected to exceed the 150 individual, we won't hopefully see that aggregating specific deductible. That's not something that always happens with a self-funded plan. So we could eventually see that go away. That's why that number is fluctuated from compared to last year to this year. It's because we have a little bit lower risk this year for some of those high cost claimants. And so we are lower aggregating as compared to last year. So hopefully less large claimants or less claimants hitting that very high threshold. Other questions? Right. As it relates to the ancillary benefits this year, we didn't make any plan changes. Sorry, we're still on that same page.
Oh, sorry.
We didn't make any plan changes this year. We continued on with MetLife for our dental, IMED for our vision, and Symmetric for the life insurance and voluntary life insurance. All 4 of those lines of coverage are in a rate pass, so we didn't see any increases to rates. The dental plan, however, we did move that into our employee benefit trust as a self-funded plan. So there's some anticipated savings there. It was not a small amount of money, about $50,000, which hopefully will help with covering claims on the medical side, but essentially it should be a financial benefit to the trust as a whole. Questions on any of that?
What is the double E designation? What is that
Oh, are we on this next page? This page?
on the recap?
Oh, EE is employee. Yeah, so on the open enrollment recap, that's our, and on the next page, Kathy. This is our open enrollment recap. So this just goes over our plan offering changes, which we didn't make any plan changes, excuse me, but it does indicate what rate adjustments were made specifically to our base plan. So in 24-25, the district's base plan was that high deductible 2,000 with a district contribution of $734 and change. And the cost to the employee for employee-only coverage, so no dependents, was $0. So that's our district's free offering to the employees. And then, of course, not noted here, the district also contributes $1,200 to health savings accounts that are attached to the high. So it's very generous offer. But for 25-26, continue with that high deductible plan as our base offering. However, as I mentioned earlier, the fully insured equivalent rates were increased by 15%. So you'll see now that the district is paying $844 and change toward the employee contribution, still keeping the employee cost at $0 and still keeping that $1,200 HSA contribution. Below that is a plan enrollment migration chart. This outlines the 3 plans that are offered, our PPO 750, the PPO 1000, and then the high deductible plan. I've included just a couple of items as it relates to the plans, the deductible on each plan, the co-insurance on each plan, just so you have kind of a comparison of what the benefits might be for an individual enrolled in one of those plans. But most notably, what I would want to look at here is the last 2 columns on the right. 5/25, that's May 25. That shows the number of enrolled employees in each plan. So that is a snapshot of the enrollments at the very end of our prior plan year. Excuse me. And then in the right column is showing October 2025 enrollment. And we look at this just to see what some of the decisions that were made as relates to our plan offerings or our cost on our plans, how that may have impacted in plan migration. And really, we didn't see much of a shift in either of the PPO plans. We did have a pretty high new enrollment in the high deductible plan. I believe that there were some additional new hires that made that happen. I don't know, Jamie, if you have other information to attribute that to.
We increased some hours for our paraprofessionals,
That's
which
right.
then became benefited.
Newly
Yeah.
benefited.
Yeah.
That's right. So not a lot of shift though, seeing people move from the PPO plans from one to the other or into the high deductible plan. So that's kind of encouraging news, especially when we make a lot of changes. We don't want people to feel like they have to jump ship, and with the pricing of the district being able to continue to offer, their generous contributions to the premiums. It's kind of nice to see that everything is relatively stable as enrollment goes. This also helps to inform when we speak with EA and the leadership of the district. When we see that of our total population, we only have 10 to 12, 13 people enrolled in one plan, that may or may not be a plan that we need to continue offering. And so it gives us some information about what people are interested in, cost, tolerance for their premiums for that richer plan. And so it helps kind of guide a discussion as to whether we maybe need to offer a third plan that's different than this PPO 750. And that's kind of why we like to look at that information. Thoughts, questions? Okay, Alrighty, so this next chart goes over, as you're relatively familiar with it, this is, excuse me, through year end of 24-25. This is showing our self-funded costs compared to what we would call our fully insured equivalent cost. Our fully insured equivalent estimation is essentially if we had stayed in a situation where we just have a set premium every month for all of our enrollment, it would be a relatively stable, static kind of cost. So we're looking at that comparison here. So in the far left, we have the dates, their month, then we have claims, which are actual claims paid by the district. We also have then our estimated fixed costs for our self-funding plan. So So that's our TPA, our pharmacy benefits, all that good stuff. And then total SF cost is our total self-funding cost. So that includes our claims and our fixed costs combined. And then we have, again, that estimated fully insured equivalent. And then on that far right is giving us basically the loss ratio, what we're calling a loss ratio, which is truly just the ratio between our self-funded cost versus had we stayed in a fully insured arrangement. And that fully insured equivalent, again, is based on our COBRA rates. It's based on our fully insured premium that we set each year. So ultimately, when we look at the bottom line here, bottom right, estimated loss ratio is about 134%, which means we spend 34% more on claims than we would have, or excuse me, our self-funded estimate, and we budgeted for based on our fully insured equivalent rating. That said, and we'll look through some additional claims where it's noted, but because we do have several large claims that were paid, we have been receiving reimbursements from our stop loss policy. So the reinsurance is doing what it should do. Excuse me. So we reimbursed at this point about $400,000 for that full plan year. So that shifts these numbers around a little bit as well. And that kind of helps give you an idea of where we landed with that. I did put last year's behind for a frame of reference. So we have 23, 24 to kind of look at. Last year we were at 119%. So a couple of rough years. Again, this is primarily driven by our high cost claimants. We have different claims data on that we'll discuss in a minute, but it's almost primarily driven by our high cost claimants.
So if you call it an out, we've gone down.
We'll look at we'll look at that, yeah. This next chart shows our claims by plan year. And we have this nice green bar. I made it green so that it wasn't as alarming. But it's slightly alarming. Yeah, it just means money. So it's a money. But this breaks down again the last several months there. Excuse me, several years dating back to when we were still fully insured. Blue Cross or Aetna. So pretty steep. Again, about 2.8 million compared to last year. We also have the bottom. There's a note here that the 24-25 also does not include about $870,000 that has been paid in runout claims this year. So the plan year with 24-25 plan year ended till June 30th. But we have a 12-month runout period, which essentially allows claims to be submitted for any services rendered in that plan year that the district will pay. Usually the first 2 to 3 months of runout are the highest. So now that we're hopefully past most of that, we'll likely see this really fall off pretty sharply. So I don't expect that this, excuse me, this number will continue to grow much more. I would say probably another couple of 100,000 for this, the remaining 12-month period. And then we see 25-26. That's only claims data through July. I know we do get weekly check runs as to how claims are going every single week. And so when you look probably at Jamie's numbers, they may be more up to date as they go week to week. I just wanted to give big snapshots of full months. So that we may see some differences between the information here compared to what's provided on the financial. When we go on over to the next page, this gives you an idea about our large cost claimants. So we've kind of glanced at this over the last period, last couple of years. But ultimately, we have our TPA paid, those are third-party administrator paid that much in claims. So our plan paid $2.26 million in large cost claimants. Our total claim spend for the same period is $9.2 So pretty large portion is made up of just these folks. Excuse me. As a reminder, when you're looking at each row, that is just one individual. That's not a collection of folks with the same diagnosis, it's just one person. And so when we see that, $2.3 million are paid on 8, 9 people, that is a pretty heavy driver to our plan, but diagnoses like this are the reason why we have insurance, right? So ultimately, as it stands for this particular time, this report that I received, we have been reimbursed about $176,000. As I mentioned, that number will continue to go up as additional claims are received in the process for these folks. I put last year's large cost claimants on the page behind. I just always like to have a little bit of a frame of reference and some history to show. The good news, I suppose, is that we had less spend this last year than we did in 23-24, but we had more risk because we had a higher aggregating specific deductible this year. So for 24-25, our aggregating specific deductible, that ASD, was set at $615,000, whereas the prior year we were set at $215,000. You can see that in the footnote on each of these pages. So while our claims were lower, we still ended up with a little bit more risk or liability there. Thoughts, questions, feedback? Right, let's talk about money that we're getting back. The next page is outlining the prescription rebates that will be or have been received or will continue to be received. This is breaking this out for the entire time that we were with Aetna self-funded period, So starting July 1st, 2023 was when we made the move to self-funding. This is showing the rebates that we have received and will be expecting from CVS as our pharmacy benefit manager. If you remember, the rebates under a fully insured arrangement do not go back to the employer. So when we're fully insured, there are still rebates, rest assured, but they go directly to the insurance company. And so under this arrangement, that money comes back to the employer. So to date, we've received about $370,000. You'll see we received more from Banner facilities because of the Aetna-Banner relationship. They have more discounts. We see a lot more flexibility with the prescription manager there compared to the non-Banner. But these are rebates for dates of service through 2024. So we will expect to continue to receive rebates for the services rendered through June of this year, 2025. And then once we have some additional time under our belt, under the new PBM, under Pharos RX, we will also receive rebates from them. Thoughts, questions? Okay, let's carry on. Don't really have much in action now. Last year, if you remember this time, we were talking about all of the services that we were going to market, and we were going to do a full RFP and all the things. Well, with that sort of behind us and implementation complete, essentially we're now just going to be tracking ROI for the products and services that we implemented, namely Gardner and the Pharos RX Navigator program for specialty prescriptions. Gardner is the program that kind of overlays our medical plan that helps steer members to top value doctors. They have a relatively lower ROI because of the way that we developed the plan, but they're expecting some savings of about $50,000 to the plan. Ultimately, that plan, if it proves itself out this year or in maybe another year, we could potentially adjust the plan tweak it a little bit more so that we can recoup even more savings underneath that plan. This year, leadership wanted to make sure that the plan was rolled out well and that folks understood it, that it was a little more conservative. But as we're seeing people engage in the program, we're hopeful that in future years we'll be able to be a little bit more progressive with it and hopefully recoup some additional savings. But so far, we just had a member engagement review to see how folks are working on this program. We've already got 37% of the enrolled population registered for the program. So we're hopeful that that will continue to grow. There's some communications and outreach campaigns that are being planned, some things like that to make sure that the HR team, the benefits team understand the program well and are able to relay those messages to the employees well. As it relates to the Pharos RX program, this is for specialty medications specifically. Essentially, it helps the employees and the members get engaged with, trying to find other avenues for their specialty medications outside of the plan. And so, while this isn't necessarily money back, and this is going to be cost avoidance situation, they projected a very large ROI where they are expecting that we will have about $420,000 in savings to our specialty medications compared to the spend from 23-24. That was the time period that they used their analysis. So we will certainly be tracking that to make sure that it's working and that employees are actively engaged in that program. That is all that I had to discuss today. Are there any questions, comments, anything at all from this one?
Guess the question is, if it continues to rise, when do you start thinking to do something different?
Good question. I think that what we're doing this year is the thing that we're doing different. For 25-26, implementing some of these new vendors and some of these new products and services for the employees will be helpful. Again, because of what we're seeing as far as increased claims costs specific to two handfuls of employees, it's difficult, but if we're able to engage the rest of the population or a large chunk of the rest of the population, I think we'll be able to see some savings there. But I think we're in a position that this will help right the ship for the majority of our population once we can get folks engaged. And the district leadership and benefits teams are great at getting folks engaged and informing them about products and services. We have an event on the 29th of September where vendors will be available. Employees are going to come in and learn more about their benefits, learn more about services are offered, kind of a refresher from what they were told in April and May during the enrollment. You as board members are welcome to attend that. It's an open meeting, open venue over here at the multi-purpose building on the 29th, the afternoon of the 29th. You're more than welcome to attend if you'd like to have the time, invite, all that stuff. We can send that to your emails. But be an opportunity for you to see some of the vendors, some of the programs, see some of the employees as well. But we're hopeful that that will be another opportunity to kind of let them learn about products. And then the district also holds PD days, professional development days, where they include sessions that employees can engage with those same vendors to get more in the weeds about how we can save money on programs. Any questions?
Okay. Item 482, Jamie Walden with the financial overview.
Okay. So I did provide you with two different pieces of paper there. One's for MetLife and one's for medical, so dental and medical. The medical, we went over this one last time, our last meeting. So we've just kind of updated it with the costs and revenue that has come in. The difference that you might see from the claim expenses, excuse me, from Allison's presentation is that we look at the data service, and so whenever the data service is, that's where we put the claim. Even though the claim may be, we're still paying claims from last year, and I don't mean last school year, I mean like last year. So we can, so we continue to just keep them in whatever fiscal year they belong in for auditing purposes. So that's why you might see that there's a little bit of difference there with the claim amounts. And then again, of course, we're constantly getting claims, and then you don't have reports except for through the last month, right? So this is more through today, yesterday. So yeah, you will notice that the claims were quite a bit higher from one year to the next. About 2 million there, or close to. You know, the bottom line is about what we have left in the bank account right now. We did put some funding in from the district, $7,000 there. So we thought we had about $7 million. Thought we had about a $5 million cushion built up in there, but it's gone away a little bit. But the other side of that is during the summer, during payroll deduction time, we're not getting funds to replenish the employee benefit trust until pay 4. And so there's 3 pays there's about 5 pays in the summer where there's not a lot of insurance money being put into the benefit trust because we have people that aren't working, right? Teachers are done in May. It's really just those year-long staff members that are still paying. And then we have to wait until the rest of the staff comes back in August before we start getting those larger deduction checks to deposit back into the account. So I feel like we'll catch up. It'll be okay. And then again with the, Allison was talking about the different trainings and things we do. We are focused very much on reminding folks about preventative care. So making sure you get all of your preventative care done, because the earlier you catch something, or don't catch anything at all, but the earlier you catch it, the less money it's going to cost the staff member and the district, and possibly staff member will reap the benefits of that as being healthy sooner too. So we're doing what we can. Do you have any questions on any of that? I only have 1 month of claims for dental. They only send them monthly, so.
Thank you, Jamie. Item 5, for the good of the order, does any board member have anything they wish to add or comment on? No? Okay. All right, item 6, adjourn.